So, um, if you don't already know me, I'm John Davis. Um, I'm not an MP or a CEO. In fact, I've been on the lower payer end in scale of work. Um, I'm not claiming to be a dictator or anything special. I am simply, as far as I'm aware, just an ordinary guy who left school with pretty much no accolades. Um, but I did have a drive for, I did have a work ethic, and I did find roles that I've developed skills over a long period of time. I found interesting um, certain social structures, and I've developed, through customer service skills. I've listened to numerous of different opinions over the years, um, and I've sort of formulated my perception based on that. And from them perceptions, I've been able to formulate perspectives on certain aspects of society, and I've looked at like the social economic system, and I've studied certain um, certain different structures of economic sort of literature. I don't claim to be an expert, and I most definitely am not any kind of mathematician. But I understand the principles of banks. I understand how interest rates work, and how the reserves work, and how debt works. But I've been integrating the social aspect to this economic system. I've watched how these certain social aspects, as well as the environment, affect the overall structure of society. And I don't claim to be an expert at these certain structures by any means, but I think I have got a unique perspective on it. But it hasn't just come from me. This is from years and years of sort of gathering information, taking the information in, playing with it, um, mixing it up, getting different people's perspectives, and also seeing the way people are sort of, people's emotions sort of are affected by that, and also how that psychologically implements on their certain social structure, ideas, and perceptions of things. But when we're programmed in a certain way from a very young age, on certain aspects from people that are older, that's the people have sort of been programmed into. Um, when you start to step away from these things, when you start to question certain aspects of society, and you don't just go along, sort of piggybacking off other people. When I sort of had this big thing about questioning it and getting different people's perspectives and using their perspectives um, in order to shape my perception on the world. Um, and I've been through some things. Um, I've been through the legal system um, due to family errors, due to family issues, and I've got a different perspective and a different perception, and I've restructured that around everything else. And I do see some major problems. Some of it you're already aware of, I'm pretty sure. Some people have already heard certain videos, seen certain videos of me. And I don't like the way I see how society's shaped and structured. So, using part of the information that I've studied online from various sources, some very, very knowledgeable old men, and some younger men who have also shaped their ideas and beliefs from older generations. And looking back through history, say prior to like 1930s, I think they had house phones in 1930s. Don't quote me on that. I don't have that paperwork with me right now. But I believe they had like some sort of telecommunications or radio or whatever it was. And then obviously back then it would have been letters, it would have been newspapers, and then maybe the radio. And that was sort of the programming, and if you didn't really see it on the newspaper, if you didn't really see it through telephone contact, if you didn't have letters, or you didn't actually physically go and see certain people in aspects of getting information around. So that was a obviously a different generation. There was a lot more to go into things, and people had to work a lot harder, and things were a lot more difficult. I'm guessing. Do you know what I mean? Well, I'm not guessing. It's pretty much solid information. But I am pretty much just briefing it. And then we had a World War. We had a World War II, I believe, in 1940s, and that went on for a few years, and that was brilliant. That was resolved. Sadly enough, to everyone who was involved, to all the people that had lost their lives, either through the gassing of however many people that they gassed, and also the people that had gone over to fight or defend not just this country but defend the rest of the world from a dictator that superseded to wanting to implementing his ideas and ramming them on the throat. But he didn't act alone. His armies, his gang acted on his behalf, and rightly so. They should have been accountable for them things, but we're human beings, and it's only a very it's only in our very nature to have a little bit of compassion, even for those that have been programmed to a certain regime in each country, especially back then, when information was quite scarce and resources were quite scarce, transportation wasn't all that much. And then, obviously, after that, it was the regrowth of countries, restructuring foundations, redeveloping a system that picked people up, and then there was a grace of peace and prosperity in every single country. The 1950s came in, we had the TV, bit more information gathered together, still a classed as a democracy back then, but still a document, still a dictatorship, through the sources of information and the amount of information people could get, basically, or share. And that was pretty much the norm. Same information up until 1996, and then the sort of mobile phones came in. There was a little bit more information. It was very, very little. So people were a little bit more safer, and there was a lot more prosperity, and there was a lot more communication, and I think that was really prosperous for the whole world. And then there was the World Wide Web, which the UK had created, and that was also a really, really important piece of history, and something that, not just as a country, but as a world, to really be proud of. And yes, it is nice to have the fact that these things had been developed in a certain island. But the more important thing is the accessibility and the freedoms that brought with it, and also the information that came with it. And then rolling on, 2000, 2001, there was an explosion of technological advances in mobile phones. Information was getting more rapid, and then it just become like faster internet, faster laptops. We had laptops, iPads, and it's been growing exponentially. And this is freed up. It's made information a lot more accessible. It's advanced our technology, subliminally something incredible. It's been able to advance our health machines, so healthcare could be more free and accessible, so that it could be a bit more reliable, so that people are healthier and more cared for in each and every country. So we're doing really well. We're getting advances in robotics now. Cars are a lot more advanced. Radio information is flying all around the place. But our social structure and our institutions are no longer relevant, I don't think. We've become stagnant in our social structures, and these things haven't been changed. And there's an awful lot of things, to do with the monetary system and the economics and our transport and everything else. All of these things have been implemented since the 1950s. All of these things, mainly from the 90s, but all of these things have shifted. And we've there's been certain legislation that has been aiming towards towards implementing a fairer, more equal society for everyone. And there has been, there's the Human Rights Acts and stuff like that, and they're brilliant. They show that they're trying to develop new things. They're trying to develop our social structures, social institutions, and everything else from a legal standpoint. But there's a bigger picture than that, isn't there? Whereas when things were a lot more scarce, the technology wasn't available, the information wasn't available. With the monetary system and ownership and everything else, and possession, these have actually become a hindrance, and in actual fact they cause more criminality than they do reduce it. And I think there's a need for a brand new form of equality, but it takes a different mindset in order to do this. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to implement we're going to have to basically try and remove the banks, try and remove government legislation, and bring around a real direct democracy. And we won't have these politicians, as to say. We'll have people responsible, people that have expertise in certain areas, to sort of just oversee it. But ultimately, I think a real direct democracy, one that gives every single citizen a chance to have a say, not on party, not on politics, not on politicians, but a real say on policy. We can direct our own path forward. But before we do that, we need to implement major social structure changes. And it does take a different mindset. As you're aware, we still need to work. But, do we need to own a car? Do we need to own a house? To have this legacy of, it's my house and I own it and it's going to be my legacy, and my kids are going to grow up and they're going to have a house, and then the government when can come along and take some tax out of that, when really there should be no tax, there should be no ownership, not even to the government. And I think the government, like the people, should find a group of civilians, a group of people, to basically regulate and just to oversee the state of the properties, and because there'll be no money, the resources will be regularly available. So if there is an issue with the home, it can get resolved quickly. There is no middleman. There is no money. There is no banks or anything like that. It's just literally, you get the information online. if you know somebody that's qualified or that has experience in that area, um, it's just a case of, hey man, I've got an issue with the house. Do you mind just coming, mentoring me, teaching me how to do it? Just give me a quick idea. And if you want to continue the job. I'm sure there's something that I can do for you. And it doesn't even have to be an exchange of money, it's just an exchange of time, basically. There's no money involved in it. It's just people getting along, you know. I think we all want to, like, help our gran or our mum or our sisters, brothers, mates, you know, communities, whatever. So that's that sorted. So, you know, there's no ownership, so there's no rent to pay, there's no mortgage to pay. There's no extra stresses on people, and there's a guaranteed home for your kids. There's a guaranteed home for your kids when they grow up. Because we've got rid of money, there's just a guaranteed home. There's a guaranteed home for adults. There's no homelessness. There's guaranteed food for everyone. You know, without this price tag, without people, that's mine, blah blah. Everyone's on the same page. Nobody has to have more money than the next person. It's really quite simple, isn't it? We don't have to own stuff, and that way, when we don't own stuff, we don't form attachments to things. We don't have this idea of like possession. We don't form attachments to things, and then we don't get this preconceived idea of theft, because ownership to begin with is a form of theft, because you're attaching to it, and then you're sort of in this incorrect paradigm of believing that you own it, and then when you take an attachment to it, you create that sense of identity to that object, and then through creating that sense of identity to that object, you simply when that's taken away, it can form a sense of loss of identity. It can formulate symptoms of anxiety. It can formulate anger and frustration, especially with all the influence on the media, sort of putting it out there that you've got to have this or you've got to have that or you've got to have this. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, and then there's cars as well. It's like you pay insurance, but even that has notations of ownership. You know, this sense of compassion, this sense of like compensation, like when you get it, you're gonna have more money than the next person, when really it should be about, once we're unpaid, once there's no money, people that are in doing doctors, being nurses, and everything else, the health, the care is there for the person that's been hurt, um, regardless of money. And regardless of money, there is no compensation because you've already got access to things. Do you know what I'm saying? You've already got this access to housing. You've already got this access to food. You've already got this access to objects and material things. And then it's simply the case of using a car, going somewhere. If someone's got skills in mechanics, it's just simply you go and work, you don't have money, you just go do the job, and then when you're finished, there's no rent to pay, there's no mortgage to pay, there's no gas to pay, there's no electric to pay. There's no sense of having to own anything. So you haven't got this preconceived idea of that's going to cause anxiety. And we can resolve a lot of mental health issues. And we can start implementing, social structures that mean something, that actually uplift communities, that create a sense of peace in people's minds, knowing that as long as we keep working, as long as we keep doing things, serving our communities, there's no money involved, there's no tills involved. Till jobs without money are non-existent. They're not needed. The whole legal system, the debts, the rents, the gas, the water, the electric, blah de blah de blah, the taxes, and it's a repetitive cycle. It's just over and 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 over again. Let go of your money. Let go of your ownership. If you're a good farmer, do your farming. Be the management of that farm. Regardless of the money. Do it because you care for the animals. Do it because you care that you want to be able to feed your communities. Do it because the access to resources won't be stressing you out. Just because you work on a farm, the farm can still be a legacy to your kids, or a legend to tell, a story to tell, for your kids to tell and take on regardless. Because that kid might not even want to do farming. But if he wishes to take on that trade, he can do that without the monetary system blocking things. So we don't have people that, if they're missing £1 out of their bank account, and so if they're missing £1 of a bank account, they've got a bill going out, and because of that missing pound, either they don't pay the bill and they get a charge from the company, or they do pay the bill but they get a charge from the bank. It's like, what is that? And because of that, it can have far more knock-on effects, because it's an unstable system, isn't it? It's a total unstable system. We don't need government. We don't need banks. We don't need the legal system to the extent that that it's implemented. Everyone is going to work regardless. Because if you don't go and do the farming, nobody gets fed. If you don't go and clean a house, people get ill. If you don't go and be a doctor or a nurse, people stay ill. People stay injured. And when we've got the right people doing the jobs for the right thing, for the passion, for the actual job, to help people, to help animals, to help, if you're a vet, to help animals, so that everyone's got food, so that everyone's got access to transport. Without all these extra issues, there's so much pressure on everyone. Whether that be pressure from the media, telling you that you need to get the biggest house, telling you that you need to dress this way, or that way, or the other way. Ramming genders down people's throats. Having issues about race and religion. We all know what the real problem is, don't we? We all know what the real problem is. It's the government. It's the banks. It's the legal institutions that set apart themselves to implement forms of slavery and develop mental health issues so that they can benefit, so that they can feed their ego. And instead we can build a country built on passion for education, passion for art, passion for the compassion and care of the health system. For the passion of farmers that go out and rear the fields, rear the sheep, rear the cattle. Out of passion, out of wanting to get the job done to the best standard that they can possibly get. Top of the range machinery. Where there is no blueprints where there are blueprints that are not patented, not holding anyone back. They get put on online in an open source database. People can go on, look at ideas, and everyone can have a chance to look at the ideas. I've got an idea that'll trump that. I've got an idea that'll be better for that. And we can start innovating like we have never innovated before. We can have the whole entire human intelligence advancing to the best possible advances that we can do throughout the world. We can reach a state of evolution that has never been reached before. We can reach a state of peace that's never been reached before. It takes just a small change in our mindset, and through that we can become a fairer society. We can have actual choice on policy, like direct democracy. where we all declare what we decide is right for the improvement, right for the grounding of who we are. So we've got stable structures. So right for moral reasons. And like I say, we can still have London. We can still have little cities, little museum cities. So that if it does go wrong, if these ideas do go wrong, then we can fall back to capitalism. We can fall back to that system. We can go back to the drawing board while we're in the capitalist system. We can watch how the new ideas roll out, and if there are issues, we can implement the capitalist society again. Look at the new ideas again and try and roll them out again, because it's the right thing to do. If something doesn't go right, you go back to the drawing board. If something doesn't go to plan, you go back to the drawing board. You find a structure that works. And then you look at that idea again. Look at where the problems were. And try and implement new ideas, new structures, in order to develop those very ideas, to get different people's perspectives on them very ideas, and then implement them. It's up to you. What kind of world do you want to live in? Do you want to carry on with this anxiety? Do you want to carry on with this sense of fear which the government and the banking and the legal institutions instill in us from a very young age? Do you want to live in that kind of fear-based society where they use money to regulate everything instead of human compassion, human care, passion, art and creativity, experience on real things? Because it will be a direct democracy, you'll still have choices. You'll still have those choices. If it doesn't work, there'll be an election. Regularly. There'll be an election. A bit like Switzerland. There's an election every 3 months. And they are a direct democracy. But we're going to go one step further as the leaders of the democratic idea across the globe, as the birth country of democracy. Let's drive the country, let's try and drive the world into a fairer, safer, saner society, where if there is an act of violence, no matter where you are, there'll be transport to escape that violence. where if there is some psychological issues, or you feel as though you are psychologically being attacked or anything, then you'll still have the access to the resources, to the transport, in order to get away from that situation without hesitation, and still be left with the stable, free foundation where the monetary, financial ownership ideas and possession of things does not offer you that security, does not offer you that sense of stability. It's completely our choice. And yes, there's going to be people that are for it, and there's going to be people that are against it. And I appreciate both sides of the fence. And people will be heard. It might be a tick box, but your voice on policy through direct democracy will be a choice on policy, not on party. It will be a choice on the social structures the general people choose. And it'll only be overseen by people with experience in them fields. In terms of weaponry, that will be still a trusted department, because it's very, very vital that that is protected, solely because of the vulnerability of lives it can affect. We will have for every 1,000 people, there'll be a canteen where you can go and get 3 meals a day. You haven't got to cook. It'll bring communities together. It'll create social structures that'll totally outweigh any social structure that the financial and government and legal institutions have created. There'll be no shops, there'll be fulfillment houses. And girls will do makeup if they want to do that. Girls will do, or lads, if they want to do that. If girls want to do people's nails, do the makeup, do the hair, then it'll be done with enjoyment and passion and with that social connection, rather than a financial gain, which is a financial loss. It's a false sense of gain and loss. you make that choice. But please make the right choice. I'm not saying that my choice is right and that's the way it's got to be, but if we can implement at least direct democracy, where people can have a say on policy, where we can direct the social change that we want, and it's not representative of a particular social bubble, a particular political bubble, or corporate interest bubble, banking, money interest bubble. We're all after the same thing, aren't we? We're all after a roof over our heads, food in our stomachs, a roof over our head, food in our stomachs, water, sewerage, waste men. We're all after a sense of education, a bit of entertainment. That's going to happen regardless. If someone can sing, they're going to sing, man. They're going to sing with a passion. And because there'll still be these museum cities that still hold the capitalist societies, these entertainment industries can go there to get inspiration so that these things don't leave us. Because although it can be a fairer society, there is a lot of inspiration that comes from a capitalist society. And I get that. It is quite inspirational to hear, say, someone singing about the liberation of a homeless man, or the liberation of something where someone's lost something and regained it. Of course that's inspiring. And it is nice to hear that. We don't want a boring world. But we want an inspirational world, don't we? We want an artistic world. That's what we want, isn't it? That's what we want. We want an artistic world so that we can be inspired, so that we can reach different areas of our brain. So we can reach different experiences while still having a solid foundation. This foundation that we're currently on, this monetary system, it's like fiberglass. It's like building a house on fiberglass. It won't work. There needs to be a solid foundation. So we're going to build a society that's built like a house. We're going to cement that foundation. We're going to make sure there's rebar in that foundation. We're going to make sure that the ground's right, so it doesn't sink. And that's how society should work. Ants tend to do it. If ants can build a colony that is so fantastic that doesn't implement banks, that doesn't implement third parties, it's a much better society. The difference between an ant and a human being is we're not codependent on a queen. We're only codependent on leaders when we have a system that we're in. They've kept the current system has created codependency, has created forms of codependency, has created forms of lack where we regulate the lands and we tell people where they can and cannot build based on what money they can get. So these structures need to come down. We need to create a more fairer society, and we can create a real direct democracy where we can have our own opinions and our own voices heard on policy, on real social change, where we can develop real equality across the UK and maybe across the globe. That's the ultimate, isn't it? So that we're all equal. That's the ultimate goal. You want to use a car, you go use a car. You want to go and learn something, go and learn it. You want to go and teach, you want to go and be a mentor, you want to go and be a mentor, you want to support someone, it's done. It's done out of passion, it's done out of creativity, it's just done out of the right reasons. When these things are implemented, there'll be a lot less arguments eventually. Stability will be everywhere. There'll be no one on the streets, no one hungry. There'll be no one that can't serve their community. If someone wants a lift, they'll get a lift. Because there's no sense of threat of theft from that car or vehicle or whatever it is. Where we can reduce congestion on the roads. Where the public transportation that we implement will be free of charge. I can't fault it personally. You know, we've got a choice to make, haven't we? I'm not offering you pay rises and pay cuts and tax rises and tax. I'm talking about real cutting it off. It's like pay rise, pay cuts, insurance, go work, go and live in the house, go work, look after your kids. They're going to be all right. Just go and work. Take your family with you to work if it's safe to do so. Do it as a family. It's not. It's really not difficult. Come on, you know. I've got a coach journey today. I'm gonna go to London. You can come with me if you like. I've got a lorry journey. Trying to do lorries. You can come with me if you like. We're gonna go here. We're gonna go there. We're not subject to gotta get more money, gotta get more money, gotta get more money. It's we've got some work for you today. Do you wanna come and do it? Take your kids, go and take your kids. There's a property there, go and stop there. That property is available, go and stop there. There's no pay. Just take it down. Stop there. See the sights. Do other little jobs while you're there. Take your kid to farms. Do you know what I mean? It depends what kind of society do you want to live in? What is it you want? Because we can still carry these swords. It's my house. It's my land. And I'm the big person. And it's my car. And if you take it away, I'm going to get angry. No. It's quite simple. It's just use a car. That's it. Just use the car. Go where you need to go. Do you know what I mean? No management looking after money and finances. Just basically overlooking the people, supporting the people. If there's an accident, if someone gets injured, doctors and nurses can come in, try and mend the problem. If it can't be mended, they'll be taken care of with compassion, with no money interference, just real compassion from any funeral directors, just pure compassion. That's the kind of society I want. That's the kind of society I want. Because I want both men, women. I want all three of them, men, women and children. And animals. To have the best possible life they can have. Yes, there's going to have to be restrictions in some manner, just to define the resources to where they need to be. You know, where we can go out where we can take our kids out to the woods and build a fire and tell ghost stories. Even if they're just silly monster stories from a very young age. Just silly stuff. It's completely up to us. Isn't it? make the right choice, or should I say, try and make the right choice. We don't need governments. It's just taking it off. If you work on a till, stand apart the till. Go and stock the shelves. Go and clean the floors. Stand apart the till. Don't expect wages at the end of the week. Don't expect to be known as a rich CEO. Be a CEO that cares for his community, that gathers the resources, that gets the teams available to gather the resources, so that your citizens and so your community can be fed, clothed, cleaned, so they can have a form of entertainment, so they can have a form of so they can have a form of communication via telephone or internet. And then if there is a natural disaster, because there's no money involved, the resources can just be brought up. Whatever resources are there. If there is a natural disaster, if there is an earthquake or a volcano, if there is a solar flare, if an idiot government decides to press the big red button in a different country, you know? It's there, it's done. If there is a natural disaster where asteroids start falling down from the sky, the bunkers can be built. The resources will be there without the money. We're still very vulnerable human beings. So don't think just because your head's mostly in the phone, looking at silly memes of 5-minute memes, we're still very, very vulnerable. We can only control the weather so much. EMFs are very, very little. They only have very little impact on our actual weather. It's your choice. I know what world I want to live in, and I'm sure other people can see where I'm coming from. We shouldn't laugh at new ideas. We should always acknowledge them. We shouldn't mock new ideas. We should always acknowledge them at least. Because they all have a mark inside the book of life. The rest is up to you guys. If you like my ideas, feel free to continue to either follow my page or just so that you've got those very ideas. That's all I can do. This is not about capitalisation. This is not about a power struggle. This is about neutralisation. And this is about forming communities and empowering each and every individual's passions in life, offering them a stable foundation and offering them as much liberty as possible to explore not only their mind but their body. And if you're religious, then to explore that. If you're spiritual, then to explore that. If you believe in the green-eyed fairy, then you can explore that. I'm not trying to create friction, I'm trying to remove the friction. From man, woman, child. I'm trying to create solid foundations in families, communities, friendships. Where we don't have to rely and be dependent on people as so much as a foundation, because the foundation's built. And the only thing to do is to offer prosperity, to level up, then seal each and every prosperity, each and every level, to seal that down as another foundation. Like the NHS. So the NHS was created. It was a major foundational structure within the UK. And it was sealed. Everyone could get healthcare. It was a foundation. So let's build our social structure like the foundation that we built the NHS on. Let's build our social structure based on passion, experience, skill set, mindset, stable footing. And let's get rid of this fragile system that causes violence, that causes arguments, and anything less, whether it be from government or the banking or the organisations, if on a pyramid, below them top tier ideas, and anything less isn't good enough. And anything less, you're actually causing crime. This system causes crime. We've been too focused on up there, haven't we? Money, status, power. This level. This is where we should be focused. And the only growth we should be focused on is this. Dreams are brilliant. But let's focus here. This is where our growth needs to be. This is where our dreams need to be. This is where our aspirations need to be. The growth needs to be here. The foundation is here. The net, the foundation, the security of a social system needs to be right down here at the bottom of the pyramid. The growth needs to be here. And our dreams, our aspirations, our creativity needs to be up here. This is where I want to be. Growth, foundation. Growth, foundation. Growth. So you got growth, dreams. So you got foundation, growth, dreams, creativity. And that will be the day. Foundations. Yeah, compassion. Foundation, compassion. Foundation, housing. Foundation, food. Foundation, clothing. Growth, technology. Research, experience, art, entertainment, make-believe stories, stories about the universe, stories about space, different planets, the Milky Way, possibility of different life forms. That's where the inspiration is. Different life forms. Not aliens, no. It's possible. I'm just going to call them different beings. I don't like the word alien because we are all alien to each other. Do you know what I mean? We're all alien to the next person. And through conscious awareness, we're able to come to an understanding at a certain level where we can meet both consciousness, where we can meet both perceptions with a perspective. That's what's important. Right now, that's all I've got to say to you guys. I don't really think there's anything much more I could say. If there was anything more that I could say, I don't think it would offer anything. All I can say is, if you have got an issue with my ideas, that's fair enough. But thanks for hearing me out. Take it or leave it, baby. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It does matter. It's up to you. Take my ideas, roll with it. I don't care about any sort of recognition for this. Just as long as some of my ideas are implemented, and we can come to a fairer society, even if it's just fractions at a time. That's the goal. Quite simply, that's the goal. Would it be nice to be recognised for these things? Absolutely. But I haven't done this alone. Every single person that's ever been in my life, everyone that I've watched and read, every bit of social structures that I've experienced, Everyone's got a little part in shaping who I am and who I have been and who I'm going to be. And even if I've been hurt by certain people, that too has been part of my growth. That too has been an experience. And although it hurt me, although these experiences happened, or whatever's happened in my life, I'm not here to complain about that. I'm here to make a life better for everyone, if I can. Because that's all that matters. If I leave this earth knowing that I've had a good impact on one person, if I leave this earth knowing that I've just had one little impact on society, in a good way or in a negative way, so that somebody can learn from it, I'd rather it be in a positive way though. Obviously that's always going to be that's always going to be the most uplifting, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like I say, take it or leave it. It's been a long video. If you want to speak to me, if you want to listen to me again, feel free. And take care. Cheerio.